the hospital cancer study. Because the promise of artificial intelligence in oncology, from early detection and diagnosis to personalized treatment planning, is immense now. Cancer remains one of the biggest health challenges of our time, and in order to overcome it, we need more than isolated efforts. We need collective intelligence, as Dr. Caleb mentioned before, shared knowledge, cross-institutional collaboration. And realizing this potential, of course, requires a shared commitment to ethical and patient-centered innovation. We talked a lot before about data. In this case, especially healthcare industry, sharing sensitive patient data across hospitals has always been constrained by privacy concerns, by regulatory requirements, by ethical responsibilities. We know about this. But this is where federated learning offers now a transformative solution. Because by enabling multiple hospitals to collaboratively train machine learning models without transferring raw patient data, federated learning allows us now to harness the power of large, diverse datasets while at the same time safeguarding privacy. And this approach not only accelerates research, but also improves the accuracy and generalizability of predictive models in cancer diagnosis and treatment planning and patient outcome prediction. So I will start now sharing my presentation about federated learning. I don't know if it's visible now. Increasingly depends on large, diverse data sets to improve diagnosis, prognosis, and treatment planning. However, patient privacy laws like HIPAA, the USA, like GDPR in Europe, and other institutional policies often prevent the hospitals from sharing raw patient data across organizations. So federated learning offers now a promising solution. It enables collaborative machine learning without centralizing sensitive data. So in multi-hospital cancer studies, federated learning allows each hospital to contribute to a shared model by training locally on its own patient data and sharing only model updates. So this preserves privacy and confidentiality while at the same time pulling insights across institutions. So why this matters in cancer studies? Patient data, particularly imaging, genomics, electronic health records, is extremely sensitive. Federated learning minimizes privacy risks by keeping raw data within each hospital's secure environment, sharing only model parameters or gradients, and reducing exposure to external systems. This is especially critical in cancer research, where genomic and imaging data are uniquely identifying. It enables more diverse data sets and larger data sets because traditional multi-center studies often require centralized data sets which are hard to assemble due to regulatory, legal, and logistical barriers. So FL actually allows hospitals around the world to collaboratively build models to access diverse populations, improving fairness and generalizability, and a better representation of rare cancer subtypes. At the same time, it improves model accuracy and robustness because federated training across institutions exposes models to wider variations in imaging devices, in clinical protocols, and population demographics. And this generally leads to better performance on unseen data, on reduced bias, and at the same time on enhanced clinical utility. So how this works? In a failure, we have a central server which orchestrates training. So a global model is initialized and shared with participating hospitals, the clients. Then each hospital trains the model locally using its own cancer patient data, histopathology, images, or MRI scan, genomic profiles. Then we have the update sharing. So instead of data, only model updates, weights or gradients are sent back to the central server. The aggregation, when the server aggregates the updates, commonly using techniques like federated averaging, and updates the global model. And finally, iteration. So steps 2 and 4, I mentioned before, they are repeated until the model converges. Some use cases in cancer research in diagnostic imaging, for example. FL has been used for tumor reduction, tumor detection in MRI and CT scans, histopathological classification of microscope images, segmentation of cancerous regions. So each hospital's imaging data stays on site, yet the jointly trained model learns from multi-center diversity. Second, genomic and molecular profiling, because cancer genomics involves patient DNA, RNA sequences, highly sensitive data. So federated learning enables predicting drug response based on genetic signatures, identifying biomarkers, integrating multi-omics data from different centers. So what are the technical challenges here? That different hospitals use different systems, imaging devices, and protocols, resulting in non-identically distributed non-IDD data, and this makes model training harder and may slow convergence or reduce performance, or what we call data heterogeneity. FLL, also federated learning, requires frequent exchange of model updates. So large models like deep neural networks can produce high communication overhead, especially when bandwidth is limited. Privacy and security risks, while raw data never leaves the hospital, shared updates can leak information indirectly. So techniques like differential privacy, secure multi-party computation, homomorphic encryption can mitigate this, but they add complexity and computational cost. And hospitals may vary in computational resources and availability, so system heterogeneity, coordination, and fault tolerance are key to ensure participation. What are now the regulatory and ethical considerations? The compliance with data protection laws, that I mentioned before, participation agreements and data governance frameworks are needed to safeguard privacy and ensure lawful use. And the issue of fairness and bias, because models trained across institutions must be evaluated for bias, especially if some hospitals represent underserved or minority populations. Federated systems should include fairness constraints when this is relevant. So some real world examples, federated learning has already been applied in multi-institution breast cancer imaging studies, in pancreatic tumor segmentation competitions, in federated genomic models predicting cancer survival outcomes, and all these efforts demonstrate improved performance when they're compared to models trained on single data alone. So what are the future directions of this? That integrating imaging plus genomics plus clinical records to build richer cancer models. This is, of course, a cross-model federated learning. Improving how model updates are combined to handle heterogeneity better. So we talk about adaptive aggregation algorithms. Embedding enabling models to evolve over time as new data arrives at participating centers, so federated continual learning, and finally developing standardized legal and ethical guidelines to support broad adoption without compromising privacy. So this actually is transforming how cancer research can be conducted across hospitals by enabling collaborative model training while preserving data privacy. It unlocks large-scale scientific insights without compromising patient confidentiality. And as technical, regulatory, and ethical frameworks mature, FL is poised to become a standard tool in multi-institutional cancer studies. How now genomic data can be used in FL for predicting cancer outcomes or drug response. This actually lets multiple hospitals, research centers to train a shared model, as said before, on genomic data without moving raw patient data offsite. And this is especially valuable for cancer outcome and drug response prediction. Why? Because their data sets are sensitive, are heterogeneous, and often too small at any single institution. So first, local genomic data preparation at its site. Each hospital keeps its data locally. So data types commonly used are somatic mutations or gene expression. And feature engineering, for example, have the pathway level features, expression embeddings, etc. Model design for cancer prediction. Typical prediction tasks. The cancer outcomes have here recurrence, risk, tumor subtype classification, what is the drug response, primary response, multi-drug sensitivity ranking, and what are the models used, regularized logistic, deep neural networks, multimodal networks, etc. The federated training workflow, step by step, we have a central server which initializes the model. Model is sent to hospitals, and then each hospital computes model updates, trains the model on its local dataset. Only updates are sent back, not raw DNA data. The server aggregates updates, then they have the updated model distributed, and then we repeat. So after we handled challenge specific to genomics, challenges related with high dimensionality, like autoencoders for dimensionality reduction of pathway level aggregation, the data heterogeneity. So we talk about differences in patient populations, in cancer subtypes, in sequencing platforms. In terms of solution here, there are solutions are more personalized and differences in small sample sizes, cross-institution learning boosts statistical power. And privacy protection techniques often combined with a failure. So secure aggregation, where server cannot see individual updates, indifferential privacy, homomorphic encryption, trusted execution environments. This is crucial since genomic data is uniquely identifiable. So some example use cases, drug response, for example, hospitals here for prediction, drug response prediction, collaboratively train a model to predict will this tumor respond to, for example, to cisplatin. So using tumor gene expression or prior treatment history or DNA repair gene mutilations, here we can use this without sharing patient genomes. Second, survival prediction model. The model predicts that the 5-year survival probability for lung cancer using RNA-seq signatures, KRAS mutation status. Then this works again with trained many hospitals VFL. And this is the architecture example here, hospital A, hospital B. Here with hospital B, you have the secure aggregation, hospital C. So real world frameworks and projects about this attention flow federated, the flower research projects related to TCGA analysis. The European Union also Melody is a project about pharma drug discovery, which worked also on this. And the benefits, of course, are related with how we can preserve patient privacy, how we can enable large-scale genomic modeling and reduce regulatory barriers, we can enhance generalization across populations, and support at the same time rare cancer studies. So specific examples of cancer subtypes where federated learning has shown improved prediction is here in skin cancer. FL has been used to train models that predict disease progression risk from histopathology images of cutaneous cell carcinoma. So a federated transformer-based model shows substantially better generalizability across multiple clinical centers compared with site-specific models, and this way improve the prediction of which patients are at risk of progression. For breast cancer also, here FL has been successfully applied to multi-class breast cancer classification tasks using ultrasound imaging datasets from different institutions. FL models often outperform local or centrally trained models, achieving higher accuracy and robust generalization across disparate data sources. And studies also show very high prediction accuracy for breast cancer detection in collaborative collaborative FL settings when combine data from multiple organizations. And additionally, FL has been applied specifically for breast density classification, which is an important predictor for breast cancer risk in mammography. For the same, have improvements in lung cancer classification from imaging data, demonstrating the ability to integrate distributed data without sharing sensitive patient records, and a large federated study for glioblastoma improved tumor boundary detection accuracy across 71 sites. This is a task critical for surgical planning. And finally, for colorectal cancer, here FL has been proposed for grading this type of cancer based on histopathological images with improved accuracy, especially for identifying more aggressive tumor grades. So why these results matters? Because federated learning helps overcome the data privacy barriers, enables collaborative models trained on diverse multi-institutional data sets, which is a key advantage in cancer research where patient data is siloed. And this is often translates into improved prediction accuracy, better generalization across populations, preserved privacy without centralizing data. And this makes FL particularly promising for complex cancer prediction and detection tasks where labeled large and varied datasets are limited. So it's something that improves definitely generalization. Instead of using data from a single source of population, here we train the model across many clients, hospitals, phones, regions, institutions, and each client represents a different population with its own characteristics, behaviors, and biases. Aggregating updates from all the sources exposes the model to a wide variety of patterns, making less overfitted to one group. Then, data in a FL is often non-identically distributed, meaning that each client's data reflects different demographics, environments, or using patterns. Learning from this heterogeneity helps the global model become more robust to variations that occur across populations. And also centralized datasets are often altered, skewed towards groups that are easier to collect data from. FL allows underrepresented or geographically distributed populations to contribute to training without sharing raw data, leading to a more balanced and representative model. And of course, combining updates for many different clients, this acts as a form of regularization because the model must find the parameters that work well across many distributions, something which discourages overfitting to any single population. FL often supports fine-tuning or personalization at the client level. So a well-generalized global model provides a strong starting point that can be adapted to specific populations while maintaining broad performance. And as new clients or populations join over time, the model can keep learning from fresh distributions, maintaining generalization as demographics and behaviors evolve. For rare cancers, there are some challenges, some limitations, because, for example, we have extremely small sample sizes per site. Many hospitals may have 1 to 10 patients for a given rare cancer. So local models trained on so few samples produce overfitting or unstable updates or noisy gradients. And in this case, we have weak generalization and high variance in predictions. The global model also risks to convert slowly or poorly. Another problem is when sites differ in the patient ethnicity, disease subtypes. For rare cancers, this heterogeneity is often larger than the signal. So the impact is that the model may fit dominant sites only, and minority biological patterns get ignored. Feature sparsity in genomic data. The problem here is that rare cancers often involve rare mutations, sparse molecular signatures. Local sites may never observe the same mutations. So what is the impact? That important variants are treated as noise, dimensionality overwhelms the sample size, etc. And the issue of privacy, because with few patients, model updates are more identifiable, and differential privacy noise has stronger effect. This means that either privacy risk increases or model accuracy collapses due to heavy noise. So this trade-off is much harsher than in common cancers. The issue of communication. Many sites contribute little data. If we have, for example, frequent communication rounds, if there's complex governance and legal agreements, what is the impact? Then we have high cost for small performance gains and slow research cycles at the same time. When there is a lack of representative validation data, the problem here is that no site has enough cases to build a proper test, and global validation is difficult without central data. What is the impact? The impact is that it is hard to detect overfitting. We have unreliable performance estimates, and there is a risk of deploying weaker models. And the model personalization also is difficult because rare cancers often have stronger site-specific patterns, subtypes with different biology, but each site lacks enough data for personalization layers. The impact is that the global model is too generic, that personalized models are too unstable, and finally, regulatory, the ethical barriers, because even with FL, some countries restrict gradient sharing. Consent may not cover collaborative learning. Genomic model updates may still be considered as sensitive, and this is amplified for rare disease cohorts. So despite limitations, FL, of course, can be used. When does it actually help? When it is combined with transfer learning, when it uses biological priors, when it's applied meta-learning or hierarchical federated learning, when it pulls data from across the consort, when it uses hybrid models. So federated learning should comply with data protection laws. Here, the core idea is that data never leaves the hospital. Only model parameters like gradients or encrypted updates are shared with a central server or coordinator, and this directly supports the legal principle of data minimization. Data minimization uses the minimum data that you need. The other frameworks. So in practice, FL systems usually add secure aggregation, access controls, audit logs, and business associate agreements. So here we have also the alliance with key DBR principles that only model updates are shared, model trained only for defined tasks, the data locality, data remains within country, the issue of security, lawful processing, each institution keeps legal control. And additional techniques used to strengthen compliance. Here, secure aggregation prevents the server from seeing individual client updates. Differential privacy adds noise to updates to prevent reconstruction of patient data. The encryption and access control to meet audit requirements. So, what FL does not automatically solve, institutions must still obtain patient consent if this is required, must still define data processing agreements or perform data protection impact assessments and document security measures. And at the same time, model updates can still leak information if they are not properly designed. So compliance means federated learning plus legal plus organizational plus technical controls. And also the ethical considerations generally, all these things, informed consent, transparent explanation of how updates are used, whether commercial partners are involved, how long updates are stored, apply safeguards, clearly communicate residual risk, the issue of data ownership, who owns the global model, the local updates, the downstream commercial value. Institutions and patients may have conflicting claims. Ethical frameworks should define the intellectual property rights here, the benefit sharing, withdrawal rights. The local data sets means biased global model. So ethical duty to monitor all these things and if we have underrepresented populations which may have weaker influence on the model or if they receive poorer predictions. The issue of accountability, who is responsible? The local hospital, the model aggregator, the algorithm developer. Federated learning blurs responsibility, so governance structures must define liability, auditability, decision authority. In terms of security and malicious participation, participants should send could send sometimes manipulated updates. So we need to implement participant authentication, anomaly detection, update validation. They should dual use secondary use. If model updates may be reused to train models for insurance risk profiling, employment screening, surveillance. This requires strict limitations on secondary usage and purpose binding. Cross-border legal and cultural ethics, model updates may cross national borders if raw data does not. And of course, explainability, clinicians and patients may not trust decisions from opaque federated models. So ethical deployment requires explainable outputs, documentation of training processes, no limitations. Even privacy-preserving sharing should be justified by clear clinical benefit, minimal necessary data exposure, and continuous risk assessment. So proportionality and risk-benefit balance. In brief, I could say that sharing model updates instead of raw data is ethically safer, but not ethically neutral. Responsible use requires addressing issues like informed consent, ownership, privacy, legal security, secondary usage, like legal compliance, transparency, clinical trust. And of course, blended learning help reduce bias or inclusion. How we can do this? If we train on heterogeneous clinical data, if we balance institutional influence, if we improve robustness of domain shifts, we support personalized adaptation. And if we include diverse patient populations, this increases representation of minority. The governance frameworks also that are important, the main frameworks that I mentioned before. And what are the main open research challenges before concluding? Preventing federated learning from widespread adoption in cancer studies. What I mentioned before about heterogeneity. So FL must handle highly heterogeneous data across hospitals and research centers. Different imaging devices, protocols, clinical practices, and patient populations produce non-independent, non-identically distributed data, and this can lead to unstable model convergence and biased or unreliable performance if it's not properly addressed. And limited inconsistent labeling, high quality annotations are labor intensive and costly, frequently consistent across sites. The issue of security, communication, efficiency, efficient communication, aware algorithms and compression models methods are still active research areas. So FL requires frequent exchange of model updates between institutions and the central coordinator, and this can cause high communication costs, latency, and bandwidth bottlenecks, particularly in large-scale, multi-site cancer networks or regions with limited IT infrastructure. Computational resource disparities and methodological variation, because there is a lack of standardized benchmarks of evaluation, protocols, validation practices for FL models in oncology. Models that perform well technically still need rigorous clinical validation to prove safety and efficacy in real healthcare workflows, which remains a major gap. And finally, regulatory environments and ethical standards differ across regions, so this makes compliance and collaborative agreements complex or restrictive. Clear governance structures, define data use, editability, compatibility, trust frameworks are still being developed. So finally, for concluding, I want to say that in cancer research, FL holds great promise for enabling collaborative, privacy-preserving model training across institutions. However, if we want to widely adopt this, researchers must make progress on several fronts. They must handle non-ID and multimodal cancer datasets, develop robust privacy protections without crippling performance, create communication, efficient and scalable protocols, establishing clinical validation and governance standards, and closing gaps in annotation, interoperability, and trust. So thank you very much. I'll stop here. And of course, for any question, I'm here.